Hello, this is Scotty Reed of Black Talk Radio News, inviting you to check out a truly independent black media platform, Black Talk Radio Network, which is supported by the North Carolina-based nonprofit Black Talk Media Project. In this particular video, I want to continue to talk about the xenophobia that is in the ADOS movement, which was created by some very xenophobic black people. American blacks is what I'm going to call them, Yvette, Carnell, and Antonio Moore. And, you know, what's really sad about this is because I have some history with Yvette Carnell. After she was being exploited by another black American by the name of Boyce Watkins, she created Breaking Brown. Black Talk Radio Network had already been well established. And, you know, I've interviewed her. Other people like Time for Awakening Media, which is a partner of the Black Talk Radio Network or part of the Black Talk Radio Network. She's been on their shows when, you know, we would bring her on to talk about whatever legitimate issue she was raising in articles and stuff that she was putting out, you know, a political analyst. And, you know, I'm really shocked, not so much at Antonio Moore, because I don't really know him. I know he blocked me because I kept asking him when they first started this to point out in your movement, you know, that slavery was never abolished. Even a UN panel said that African Americans are owed reparations, not just for slavery pre-1865, but for all the racism and terrorism and the neo-slavery that followed, which was made possible through the courts by the 13th Amendment. And that's all I asked them is, you know, include that as a plank in your platform. You know, I have lobbied other groups like the National Coalition for Reparations. It's called NCOBRA, but, you know, it's a long-standing reparations movement, an international reparations movement that seeks reparations from the countries that owe reparations to their victims. That's an example of Pan-Africanism. That's an example of black people all over the world working together and fighting against the white supremacists who have done harm to all our communities and owe reparations. And he blocked me for that. You know, he blocked me for that. And I see on the website now, they mention the 13th Amendment, and I'm going to chalk that up to the lobbying of the new abolitionist movement. You know, we're not a race-based movement. We're an abolitionist movement opposed to slavery. And I've lobbied other groups like in Cobra, like I just said. We did an interview with some of their representatives. They agreed it's important to point out that slavery was never abolished. We need to end it. And, you know, reparations, you know, is not just for pre-1865 slavery, but everything that follows, like the UN panel said, you know, even mentioning police violence and what have you. The millions, what was this other organization? 1 million black voters and contributors. I successfully lobbied them to include calling for an end of slavery via the 13th Amendment. Let's just call it prison slavery, and to acknowledge that they did that. But when I reached out to Antonio Moore, man, nothing but hostility, to the point that, you know, he just blocked me. And I'm going to keep lobbying for an end of slavery because I am 100% against the continuation of slavery. You know, before Ava DuVernay come out with the 13th, before this other brother had a CNN documentary pointing out the 13th Amendment didn't abolish slavery. I think he called, the name of that doc is American Jail. I on New Abolitionist Radio, a weekly radio program, we've been putting that out there since 2014. Now, of course, we didn't start the New Abolitionist movement. Hell, you know, I just happened to read the 13th Amendment and being able to comprehend English, recognize the fact that you can't abolish slavery and then create an exception for a new form of slavery. You're not getting rid of slavery. You trying to trick people. And that trick has worked for 150 years. But, you know, again, as of late, there has been acknowledgement that slavery has never been abolished, including among the ADOS movement that was started by the xenophobic Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. But again, they don't call for an NW. They just point to a white man's book, and it's a great book and a documentary because we have recommended it as well, Slavery by Another Name. But they never even they never even call for a repeal and a replacement of the 13th Amendment with another amendment that makes no exceptions for slavery. But again, I'm very disappointed in Yvette Carnell, because we were supporting her before she became YouTube famous. And she knows that, especially Time for Awakening Radio, are Pan-Africanists. And we believe in working with black people. You can't work with all black people. I can't work with no Candace Owens. I can't work with no Ben Carson. I don't get down with black conservatives like that. And so I already know that, you are not going to be able to work with everybody that look like you. That's the world over. I got into it earlier with this white man on Twitter who was trying to attack democratic socialists in this country by talking about how the Mau Mau in Kenya was indoctrinating people. And I was like, everybody indoctrinates everybody. And, if you're going to talk about Mau Mau and them killing other black people who was collaborating with these white supremacists that was coming in exploiting, their country, you can't talk about black on black crime without talking about white on black crime, the most pervasive crime in the history of mankind. Okay. And so anyway, I'm just real disappointed because I was supporting the ADOS movement till I was reminded, because I don't get to watch a whole lot of other videos because I'm a media producer and I have to help others produce their media. And we have our own platform. We're not based primarily on YouTube or any white-owned platform. We have our own platforms that we're building. So I listen to that media, but we still will use the enemy's resources and put out our content through other platforms. But the difference is we're not based on those platforms. So, we were supporting her before she got the audience that she got. And then for her to crap all over Pan-Africanists when it was in the Pan-African spirit that Time for Awakening was bringing her on the program. Okay. And so now let me just get to this video because I already done a podcast where I had some American born and, African descendant immigrant who came here when he was 16, but the other two who called into my last program on pushing back against xenophobia and the ADOS movement and what I call proxy racism, because when you take the focus off of white supremacists and put the focus on the victims of white supremacy, you are acting as a proxy racist. That benefits nobody but white supremacists when black people is at each other. Okay. I mean, check out the documentary Confessions of an Economic Hitman. This is what the white supremacists do in Africa and other non-white countries. Go in there. Look at Venezuela right now. They backing this Guaido dude, even though he looks more white than he does, non-white. And Venezuela got a lot of non-white indigenous people and African descendant people, victims of slavery. Only reason they got their independence, I ain't gonna say the only reason, but a big reason they got their independence during the Bolivar War, and excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that, is because Haiti helped them, get their independence and what have you. And so you got a lot of black people, but you look at how the Trump administration, using this war criminal Elliot Abrams running point, how they are using Venezuelans against other Venezuelans. Okay, that is how when black people attack other black people anywhere on the planet and pit them or try to make them look like they are our enemies instead of focusing on white supremacy. Look, all you doing, this is why we cannot get ahead. This is why we're making no progress and actually regressing. But anyway, on the political, just, looking at it from political strategy points or the viability on a political state, because the only way we, Black Americans is going to get reparations is through the U.S. government. All right. And so, I also did a video talking about codification, which Mr. Neely Fuller teaches, and how you have to use language in a way that is best going to produce the justice that you're looking for. And it's not going to distract from your core message of justice. And paying reparations would be an act of justice or something in support of justice. So what sense does it make to use the same kind of language that we hear coming from Donald Trump and the Make America Great Again Trumpers? What good is it doing Black people to adopt that type of language? What you're doing is you're giving the political establishment, you're giving the gatekeepers ammunition, the same ammunition that they have on Trump to attack him, the Muslim ban and saying how he only wants white immigrants, from countries like Sweden and Norway and Germany and places like that. But he don't want no immigrants but here we are having Black people who are not pushing them back primarily against, let's say, these white immigrants or even these Indian immigrants from India taking all of these tech jobs. I worked in customer service, and the outsourcing of that customer service, and I'm talking about by phone, over the phone. I used to work for Sprint PCS, and they started outsourcing our jobs to India. So, you're not even focusing on them. You're focusing on other Black people. What sense does that make? Who does that help the most? Helps white supremacists the most. So, when you are not mature enough that you don't understand that you cannot use racist terms, racist language, and it is a form of racism, xenophobia by Black people against other Black people based on their national origin, is racism. Because you're Black, I'm going to call you a proxy racist, a tool of white supremacy, instead of calling you a white supremacist. All right. So anyway, this person posted this on Twitter, and apparently Yvette Carnell took 1 minute and 5 seconds from, I don't know how long this speech Marc Morial gave. He's with the National Urban League. And like this person later called Marc Morial a gatekeeper. I agree with him on that. And first, let me just thank Mr. Eugene Poole for having a constructive dialogue. Because I told him I didn't see anything, and I'll play the video in a second, but I didn't see anything Marc Morial said wrong. He rightly stated that he sees this as an attempt to divide the Black community. Well, I know now, which I didn't know before, because she wasn't expressing it on any of the programs associated with Black Talk Radio Network. I didn't know this, but we look at ourselves as a global Black family. Okay, we got a lot of listeners in Africa. I'm more into the digital radio. I'm not into the YouTube and all that, because this is where my area of expertise is. But Marc Morial is a gatekeeper. I would say that's correct to call him a gatekeeper, and I think I may have popularized the term butter biscuit eating people, but butter biscuits come from who? They come from massa. They come from the white slaver. That's where they come from. The way it's properly used is, the white slaver would make sure that his informants and those that he was using to prevent mass rebellion on the plantation, well, I'm gonna give you some butter biscuits and you gonna eat good, while we gonna give hog guts and other scraps to those out there in the field, these rebellious Negroes and what have you. So if we're talking about butter biscuits, that term is linked to white supremacy, and I think it is correct to say that these institutional black organizations have failed black people. They've failed to hold the Democratic Party accountable on the issue of reparations. I don't care if you're a black representative and you have already co-sponsored and co-signed onto HR 40. You ain't doing nothing. You ain't pushing it, you know? And again, this goes to political strategy. You just heard, the black Somali American immigrant. She's an immigrant. She's an American now. And she's in Congress. Representative Omar just talked about the white supremacist based AIPAC movement. Y'all want to say it's Jewish. I say it's white supremacist based. Some white people are Jews, just like there are some non-white people who are Jews. So I call it white supremacists. I'm not gonna fall in that trap, but they advocate on the behalf of the white supremacist government of Israel that is run primarily by Ashkenazis, which means Europeans. You know, they speak Yiddish, which is a German-based dialect. They come from Europe, And so she rightly pointed out, how they use money to lobby to get policies passed. That's one of the most powerful lobbying groups in the United States. And it's evident by the $5 billion a year in military weaponry that they get from American taxpayers by way of the U.S. Congress and the CEO of USA Inc. That means the president. Okay? And, I was just talking to one of my sisters who's in the UK. Not my blood sister, but y'all know how we use the term brother and sister. But, she has volunteered for years for the Black Talk Media Project and helping us with our media efforts. And I was just talking to her the other night, and we were talking about if black people want to get serious about getting agendas pushed through, we need to have our own AIPACs. And that's what the Million Black Voters and Contributors was supposed to be about. If my understanding of it is correct. It take money. It take money to grease the palms. That's just how it works, rightly or wrongly, and it is wrong. We do need to get big money out of politics, but that's how it works. That's how it's working right now. That's how people get their agendas pushed through, holding fundraisers, holding conferences, and inviting these politicians and, filling up their campaign coffers in order to get our agendas pushed through. We have not done that. Black people have not done that in the United States. Black Americans have not done that. Victims of slavery have not created a political action committee, and I've talked about it in terms of new abolitionist movement. We need an abolitionist super PAC, but all this take money. Okay, it takes money. It takes expertise in running political, action committees, because you got to go by the law and what have you. So you don't even have that. We don't even have that. So that's why we keep running in circles and chasing our tails. And while propaganda is powerful, hashtags is not going to get it done. Hashtags and social media is to raise awareness and to organize, okay? But lacking the political lobbying aspect of how politics work, no. We ain't gonna get nothing done in it. Let's just be real about that, because all black people are not, and I'm talking black Americans specifically, we ain't all of the same page. That's why you got your Candace Owenses of the world. That's why you got your Ben Carsons of the world. So it's evident that we all are not on the same page. But it seems though that Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore is taking a page out of the books of these black conservatives who work for, guess who? White supremacists. Who y'all think Miss Owens works for? Turning Point USA. That's a white supremacist organization advocating for conservative policy. She ain't over there advocating for no reparations. Ben Carson ain't calling for no reparations. They ain't trying to put reparations on the table with Donald Trump. Okay, so, you're taking a page out of their book and focusing on non-white people, focusing your xenophobic comments on people who may not be black, but they're non-white, and they're victims of white supremacy, global white supremacy. All of these political refugees coming from South Central America are not coming here because they looking for the American dream. No, they are running from the nightmares that have been created in their countries by America. Okay? So, I just think it's important that we know how the game is being played. We didn't make the rules, and we don't even know how the game is played. And as long as we think that we can think that we could just shout at people or start a hashtag movement and just say we want this and want that, and there's no vehicle, no mechanism to make it happen through politics, then look, you just gonna be shouting till you're blue in the face. Nothing's gonna get done, like nothing's gotten done. But again, let me focus back on the Marc Morials, the black institutions, the Congressional Black Caucus. I don't care if you have sponsored the reparations bill. You don't never try to push it through and get it attached to any other bills. You're not fighting Nancy Pelosi and other Democratic leadership for reparations. You're not saying, hey, okay. And again, I am for the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement against Israel, who not only mistreats Palestinians, but mistreats black Jews who have been having their own Black Lives Matter movement that you don't never see on television here in the United States. But you're not saying to them, okay, so y'all want to give Israel all of these weapons. You want us to sign off on this bill that's going to give give Israel all this ammunition so they can continue to shoot down unarmed, non-white people participating in the March of Return or Right of Return marches, non-violently being shot down by Israeli soldiers and what have you. So y'all want to give them some ammunition because they didn't kill so many of them, they running out of ammunition. Well, the only way that we're going to vote to pass that, to get them that ammunition, is if you provide the funding, the 7 trillion, 8 trillion, 10 trillion, 20 children, however much money it is determined that is owed in reparations to black Americans in this country. You see, that's how the other groups do it, right? That's how they do it, right? They attach their stuff to other bills. Just like Marco Rubio attached that what they call it, combating BDS, to make it illegal for American citizens to participate in boycotts and sanctions and divestment movements against Israel. So Marco Rubio attached that to another bill, and it passed through the Senate. How come that's not being done with a reparations bill? Okay, see, these are things I'm not even hearing. Again, granted, I only watch a few videos somebody posted to our own social media community, btrcommunity.com. I'll look at some of the videos. I'm not hearing this type of language coming from Yvette, Carnell, and the rest of them. And she used to be a political staffer. She used to work on it here. She know how politics work. So what's really going on here? What's really going on here? Why are you giving gatekeepers and the white supremacists that's in the Democratic Party ammunition to discredit you? Again, they already came after you with the illegitimate criticism that you're some kind of bot community or whatnot. The same thing they used against Donald Trump. Same thing they used against the guy down there in Alabama, for which that company New Knowledge got kicked off of Facebook for creating these fake accounts to emulate like they were Russians who were interfering and meddling in the again, I made a video telling y'all how to push back against that. Okay, I made a video again, but when it's brought to my attention, all this xenophobia, and brought to my remembrance the earlier xenophobia that I witnessed myself, because I'm not a hypocrite, if I'm gonna call out Donald Trump on his xenophobia, and white supremacy, then I gotta call you out on your xenophobia and your proxy racism. Okay, because I try to live my life with integrity and not live my life in hypocrisy. All right. So, but again, very constructive dialogue I had with Eugene Poole. And like I said to him, I wish I could hear the whole thing and not just some sound bite him mentioning the ADOS movement, so Yvette Carnell can clip it and say, hey, we making progress. They talking about ADOS. No, you don't want that kind of attention when they talking about your xenophobia. He ain't gonna talk about reparations, at least in this little sound bite that she clipped. He not talking about they gonna put the focus on your xenophobia. That's what they gonna do. Your xenophobia are towards other descendants of victims of slavery who immigrate here. And let's not act like black Americans don't immigrate to other countries as well. So why we want to be like Donald Trump and the white supremacists? Okay, so anyway, let's play this clip because I ain't hear him say anything incorrect.
Curtain over here, same man behind a curtain over there, stirring up confusion with great effectiveness and success. Now, what is going on today? You may have seen this effort to divide the black community between ADOS, African descendants of slaves, and black people who may be here from the Caribbean or Africa. Beware that the same people are doing this. The same people are now undertaking a pernicious effort as though there was no slavery in the Caribbean.
Okay, so he misspoke there. It sounded like he said African descendants of slavery, so he misspoke there. No, Mr. Morial, it's American descendants of slavery. See, they running from the African. And again, I'm not talking to everybody who has adopted that ADOS tag. I won't use it because my ancestors on my grandfather's side were not slaves, okay? They were victims. They were kidnapped. And they were victims. I mean, think about it. When a woman's kidnapped and sold into sexual trafficking and human trafficking, we don't call those women slaves, do we? We don't call them slaves. We don't call them sexual slaves or nothing like. We call them victims. So I'm not going to call my ancestors who did suffer from slavery and what followed, the neo-slavery that continued, the Jim Crow, the black laws and all of that kind of, I'm not going to disrespect them and call them slaves, okay? Slavery is what they were reduced to. That's not who they were. They were human beings, victims of human trafficking, all right? So, but anyway, he's wrong on that. He got it wrong. They're running from, and I'm speaking about the leaders. Let me just make that clear. Because some of the ADOS people is part of the Black Talk Radio Network. You know, they listen to us and what have you. They're adopting that tag. So, of course, I ain't talking about everybody. I'm just talking about the xenophobic ones who have latched on to this. And I still, for the life of me, don't understand what xenophobia has to do with reparations. Why you aren't focused solely on attaining reparations? Why you got to stir up hatred towards other black people? Why not do like in Cobra and educate black people who are descendants of victims of slavery, no matter where they are in the world, even in Africa, victims of colonialism are supporting the Cobra movement for black Americans. And then the black Americans that's part of Cobra is supporting reparations from the UK to those in the Caribbean, okay? So that's how Pan-Africanism works. Don't believe Yvette Carnell when she says that Pan-Africanism is dead. No, they've been killing Pan-African, excuse me, they've been killing Pan-Africanists. But I don't want to misquote them, but I think it was the brother out of Chicago that they murdered. You can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. Fred Hampton, Black Panther Party. They also had Caribbean descendants of victims of slavery over here fighting to protect black communities. You know what I'm saying? This is how, now all we are seeing now is a psyop. And he is correct when he says it's causing confusion for those that listen to the context of white supremacy or subscribe to the counter-racist teachings and observations of Neely Fuller. Then you know it's about creating confusion. You know what white supremacy is about: keeping victims confused and fighting each other instead of focusing on white supremacy. Okay? So next thing I expect to see on MSNBC, since they've been discredited Angela Rye and Joy Reid, no relation to me, but they've been discredited. I helped to discredit them with my videos and connecting this to this whole wider disinformation campaign against Republicans, even though I don't support Republicans. The truth is the truth. I'm a journalist. I'm here to be objective. I ain't here to make you feel good about yourself. I ain't here to give you confirmation bias. I'm on here to speak the truth as I see it based off of my observations and my research. Okay? So, now what you're going to see next, mark my words, and, I'm not Nostradamus or I'm not a prophet or anything like that, but I know how politics work. I know how the mainstream media works. I've been fighting against it ever since I started the Black Talk Media Project and their disinformation programs that they run on the people, programming you with this confusion and hatred for non-white people worldwide, to the point that we would join the military and go over there and help steal their resources, to the point that, we will help them kill American Indians and open up the West for white settlers, to the point that we will go over there with Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders and kill non-white people and take over the island of Puerto Rico. See, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Okay? So that's what's going on there. And I have been getting some phone calls, some text messages, and people who listen to BTR News and the wider Black Talk Radio Network asking me my opinion on ADOS. I was just about to support it until I recognized that, hey, xenophobia is against my principles. I believe in human rights for all people. I believe that white people, racist white people, are most responsible for all our problems. So why I'm going to focus on another victim? But this is also showing a lack of black self-respect. This is showing a lack of black self-respect. And somebody tweeted out earlier, let me see if I can find it right quick. The late Dr. Frances Cress Wellesley, talking about black self-respect and talking about, black women hating black men and black men hating black women and how, they don't do nothing but serve white supremacy. Okay? So let me see if I can find that right quick, that quick video, because I tagged it. Oh, I know where to go. I tagged it ADOS for the xenophobic elements, within this ADOS that has been cultivated by Yvette, Carnell, and Antonio Moore. All right, let me pull this up, and I'm just gonna close out with Dr. Frances Cress Wellesley talking about black self-respect, a message for ADOS. Not all, but those who insist on demonizing black immigrants, which isn't necessary to garner support for reparations. I don't see NCOBRA engaging in such activity. This is an important lesson on black self-respect and self-hatred of other descendants of slavery. And I got to quit using that. It should be DOVS, descendants of victims of slavery, and let's stop dehumanizing our own ancestors. All right, so I'm going to close it out with this. Now, this person posted this in relation to the misandry that we see among black women and the misogyny that we see among some black men. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, I would suspect this was either recorded in the 70s or the 80s, but we can take this and apply it to the xenophobic elements within this movement of not having self-respect for black people.
But by focusing on this, any man and woman who want to improve their relationship, focus on white supremacy. See, any woman that thinks man is a problem, focus on white supremacy. Any man that thinks a black woman is a problem, focus on white supremacy. There's a problem that is 10 trillion times greater for you than any non-white female that you've ever encountered on the planet. And if, see, by looking at this side of the chessboard, which will require courage, and the use of courage will produce self-respect. And when we are in self-respect, for example, if I, Frances Welsing, said, I can't stand men, I can't stand black men, what would my self-respect score be max?
0.
No, it wouldn't be 0. It would be at max 50%. Why? Because I am produced by a mother and a father. Without my father, I could not be standing here. So if I say I hate half of myself, I hate me, then my self-respect score will be 50 at max, and my self-defense score will also be 50. And anybody growing up in Chicago public schools know that 50 is not passing. You see, so I would be in a failed state of self-respect. This is very critical. It is important for men. It is important for women. A man saying, I hate black women. I hate black women. His self-respect score at max can only be 50. And he will eventually engage in self-destructive behavior.
Okay, so that was Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. So just take what she was saying using the terms black man and black woman, and we know she was talking to us black Americans or any other black people that was in their audience. I don't want to assume that there weren't any African immigrants or the children of African immigrants, American born, are went to her lectures or whatnot. But let's just replace black men and black women with black immigrants, or let's say Caribbean victim of slavery, Jamaican victim of slavery, Haitian victim of slavery. Okay. And then American victims of slavery. If that's our family, especially those that was on those ships carrying human cargo. They just happened to first stop in the Caribbean and then travel up here to the Americas for their last stop and let us off. Our ancestors off. It's all connected. White supremacy is global, just as slavery is a global problem. So with that said, listen, Black Talk Media Project is now doing a fundraiser as, we have been running Black Talk Radio Network for 11 years. But because of the lack of support from the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and since 2008, the millions of people who have consumed the media from the platform have not been donating financial funds. And we're a nonprofit. So we're doing a last-ditch effort to keep Black Talk Radio Network going, to enable the Black Talk Media Project to train more black people on new media technology and build independent black media platforms for them. In order for us to continue that work, a last-ditch effort. We're doing a 1,000 membership drive at just $24 a year, okay? That is $24 a year, breaks down to 50 cents a week for independent black media through the Black Talk Radio Network, all right? And so, again, stuff costs money. And if we ain't willing to come out our pockets, then how we going to get anything passed for ourselves? How are we going to advance our agendas if we don't even got our own media? YouTube can shut you down at any time. Let some immigrants go on there and say, hey, Yvette Carnell is spreading xenophobia and targeting groups that the federal law says you can't discriminate against people based on national origin. Y'all know how they do. How many black people have already been kicked off of YouTube and demonetized on YouTube? Not that you should even be seeking money from these corporations that's advertising on YouTube. Oh man, don't even let me go on that rant. So I'm just close out by saying, become one of just 1,000 members that we're trying to reach in the next couple of months at just $24 a year. In exchange for that, you can be a podcast publisher, a video podcaster. If you're a writer, you can write a blog on blacktalkradionetwork.com. You'll also get a membership to our own social media community, BTR community. Again, I'm not telling y'all to abandon these other places because I'm there too, but I'm using their resources. But if I get kicked off, I got my own to fall back on, okay? So help us maintain that safe black digital space. Become a publisher, a subscriber, a member of our social media community, and then also on Black Talk Radio Network, you get to control the ad space, all right? If you pick up sponsors and what have you, that's 100% of the money you get to keep. You can use our in-house ad network to display those ads on your content. All right, thanks for listening. I didn't mean to go this long, but thanks for listening. This is Scotty Reed signing out.